All right, this is part 2 of our video. It's Game 2014 in the fall 2020 semester, and it's week 1, and now we're going to be talking about our technical setup. So welcome back. Okay, so this is part 2 of our recording. I have it up here on Blackboard for everybody. So first thing is we want to download and install Unity. All right, so if you already have Unity installed, wonderful. That's going to help a lot because that's going to speed up some of the stuff that I want to talk about today. All right, so one way to do it is to actually search for Unity download. So if you go search for Unity download, it'll take you to this page. You don't want to download this link. You want to use Unity Hub. That's what you want to do. Okay, notice the requirements on the right. If you're someone who is hardware impaired, I'm going to say someone who has a cheap laptop. How about that? Maybe that's a better way of saying it. And somehow you can't run these, you don't have stats like this. You can't run DirectX 10 or something crazy. Yeah, you won't be able to do what we're doing this semester. It doesn't require a lot of buff on our video card, not nearly as much as Unreal, but it does require a system that can handle somewhat of a big load, especially when it comes to mobile development. So let's do that installation. Yeah.
People who have potato computers can get access to a remote computer through the school. I'll paste an email address in the Zoom chat of who they can email to get remote access. You're
awesome, Kat. Thank you for that. Yes, that is true. I was going to mention that there are ways of getting a rental or a laptop if you want as well through the school. I think if you send an email to Alex, he'd be your best contact. He can probably hook you up with something if you really have a problem. So example, Amber, who's been having some problems with her computer and whatever, if you need assistance with hardware, please connect with Alex and he can probably do something for you, you know, if you have a real big issue connecting. And we want to make your experience as best as possible. I don't want to say seamless because it's not seamless. It's different, okay? But you know, at least you'll have a chance to download and install stuff. So, okay, so let's suppose you've downloaded Unity, the Unity Hub. I'm going to run Unity Hub here. And I'm going to go to installs. When you download Unity Hub, you won't have any of these. Notice that I have 2. I have the 2019.4.4 F1 long-term support version. I had this because I was developing a game for something earlier than what I was doing, and it did not support. The previous version of the game did not support version 2020 or later. This is totally fine to have multiple installs on your Unity Hub. However, it does take additional space on your computer. Notice this one. I have a bunch of little platforms I've installed, and my version is 2020.1.3 F1. Let's talk about a new one. Let's say you want to install for the first time. You're going to click Add, and in here you're going to have some choices. One of them is the latest release, Unity 2020.1 for F1. This is cool. Here's my ask of you this semester. Please, if you download 2021 for F1, do not upgrade this semester. If you're going to upgrade, wait till next semester. Unless we all agree, here's the proviso, we all agree, we get together and we say, you know what, you guys tell me that 2021 for F1 is broken, Tom, and it doesn't do what we're supposed to do, and they have a fix for it in 2021 5F1, and we're all going to move to that, all of us, right? Unless we say that, please stick with the version you're downloading now, okay? Why? You may start off with a, I hear what you're saying, Kat. It's 2019 should be able to run it, but there's some packages that may not run properly on 2019, which is I'm going to go through right now. You don't need a license, and when you download, you can sign up for personal use, Michael. So when you sign up, you sign in to Unity, you sign up for it, and you sign up for personal use. You're not going to. There's different options for you. So, example, if I went to Getting Started instead, it's going to take me here to different licensing, right? If you go to Individual, there's Student and Personal, and you can certainly sign up as a student and you get additional access, but doing personal is just fine as well. Okay. I would say always start off with, I mean, you're talking about from an installation perspective, Amber, it's okay to, you know, to say that you're first-time user. It'll step you through a bunch of a wizard that'll make you install stuff, or you can just follow what I'm doing. It's fine. And Harrison's saying, I have 1.3 F1. Should I go to 4? No, I'm not going to 4. I'm just going to show you what to do, right? So here's 1.4 F1, but I have 1.3 F1, right? Or 1.3 F1. So let's suppose I want to install 4. I'm going to click next. Or let's go back. What if, for example, the one I'm telling you to download, let's say I told you I want you to download 3 F1. How would you do that? Well, there is a download archive up here as well. So if you go to the download archive, it'll take you to the site, and you can download any version of Unity from now until Unity 3.x. It's all up here. So you can always download another version. For people who need it for work, for example, for Cat, if you're using it for work and you have to use 2019 and you spray set at a premium, you're running a Mac or something like that, or a small hard drive, a couple things you can do. You can put it on an external hard drive. Unity doesn't care, as long as it can find the installation. Or you can just uninstall the one that you don't need for now, if you don't need it for work, and install the one we're using for 2020, and then just uninstall it and do it again. I know it's a pain in the ass, but at least it's a solution, right? However, if you can get off with not uninstalling it, yes, uninstall the Sims. That's a good solution. That's a better solution. How about that? That's a great solution. Anyway, let's get back. So if you want a previous version, you can come here. If you don't, though, and if you're okay with 2021 F4 F1, click Next. Now, here are the installation requirements I recommend. Do not install Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2019 unless you don't have Visual Studio somehow installed on your machine. If you don't have it, click this. If you do have it, do not check this. All right? This is 1.4 gigabytes of space. You can always download the dev tools on your own, and it's not going to make a difference for you. All right? Next, make sure you check the Android build support platform. We're going to need this. So check this, right? It's going to download almost 1.2 gigabytes, and that's okay, right? The install size after you download it is like 3 gigabytes, right? Just letting you know, that's just for Android support. All right, iOS build support. Please download this, because we're going to make some iOS builds as well, right, in this course. Even though we're not actually going to build an iPhone app, I want you to have experience switching between platforms. And so this is part of the requirements. You need to download this as well. All right. Nice to have would be Linux or Mac, but it's not required, right? So you don't have to download these, or Universal Windows Platform. You don't have to download these things. Please also download and install WebGL, because this is the third platform I'm going to be targeting this semester. I will ask you to download and install WebGL and test it there, because when you hand stuff in, I may ask you to hand it in with a WebGL build, so I can just double click and run it. Okay. And finally, definitely install Windows build support, because all else fails, we can always run it through Windows. Okay, so make sure you have these installation requirements. Do not install the documentation. That would be a waste of space. The best documentation is online. Google foo it. All right, so let's see what we have here. Those dev tools give you all the IntelliSense things. No? Yeah, they do, but you can download them by yourself, Blair. You don't need to download all these tools here, 1.4 gigs, because it always also installs Microsoft Visual Studio Community Edition, which you don't want. You can go through Microsoft Visual Studio installer and just install the dev tools for Unity, and it's much smaller. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that later. All right, next. Let's click Next. So when you click Next, it's going to do the installation. It's going to ask you where you want to install it, and it's going to install the thing. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to cancel out, because I already got my install. All right, so I'm going to wait for a bit and for you to download it. It will take a while. So that's why for this lab, I'm asking you to go and install this and have this ready to go. Personal is the same as student. It doesn't really matter to me, Michael. Either one is fine. Student might take a little longer to verify. So just install personal for now. And you can always change that. Okay, so I'm supposing that you're going to install 2020.13F1. There's reasons why I've asked you to install this one and not 2019, because there's new packages that have come out that are more compatible with the 2020 version compared to 2019 version, right? So also, here's another reason. I know that Professor Joss, which you're going to have for engines, is also going to make you install 2020. right? So it's better for you to have one version of Unity that you're going to run through the entire time. And if you ask him to upgrade, he'll tell you the same thing most likely that I'm telling you, which is don't do it unless you absolutely need it, okay? Because it's going to disrupt your workflow, right? You don't want that. Okay, next, I'm going to go to projects, and we're going to kick off a new project. Let's a show of hands who has actually downloaded and installed Unity, please. So you can put your hands, a thumbs up. You can use a check mark. I'm looking at the participants tab to see who's got it, right? And I see some people do it. If you're just watching, put in an X instead of the hand. So I got some people who are installing. How about anyone who's watching? Show me that you're alive, guys. I want to see that you're alive. Put an X if you're not installing something. Thank you, Michael. Awesome, Lawrence. Right? And it's easier for me to look at the participants tab, guys, in the chat. So let's use the participants tab as much as possible from now on. I'll clear this. Thank you for that. All right, so most of you are installed, but some of you are watching. Some of you are still downloading, and that's okay. I'm going to click New. But before I do that, notice that there's a little pull-down menu. If you have multiple versions of Unity installed, you can select which version you want to open up with. If I want to open up a project or start a project with the old version of Unity or the long-term support version, I can use this, or I can just choose this, or it'll default to the newest version. All right, so let's just select it. I'll say select 2020. It's going to ask me the next screen, the dialog box that's going to come up. It's going to say, which package do you want me to load Unity up with? Okay, so there is Universal Render Pipeline. This used to be called the Lightweight RP, and they changed it to Universal Render Pipeline because I think people just kept on doing this high definition RP because it's high definition RP when they didn't need it. And I think this is a really good pipeline. It still uses a lot of, you can use data-oriented design in here as well, dots. The burst compiler and all that stuff that they have in the high definition RP, but a little bit more lightweight. That's all. 3D is your standard. This uses the older engine, which is totally fine. It's great. And of course, we're going to be working all within 2D this entire semester. For us, probably for you and I, and you and Joss, when you're working with him in his course. So click on 2D. Next. Your project name, please make it understandable. So something like GAME2014, and then maybe fall 2020, and then the lab. Like in my case, it's lab 1B, because I already have lab 1. I did it earlier today. Lab 1B is what I'm going to call it. You should probably call this lab 1. Even though there's no points for it, I still want you to be able to do this to demonstrate that you can do it for me by next week. Okay? You don't need to do the Universal Windows platform. It's totally fine. Yeah. All right, let's continue with 2D. Create. It's going to go out and it's going to start scaffolding out my project. Okay. Now the project pieces. There's a lot of little project pieces that are going to be here, and we're going to talk about this in a second as we start off this this project. So as you can see, it takes time just to be able to set up your project for the first time. What this is doing is it's building up your library, it's building up your assets, it's building up everything that you need to run a Unity project. Okay, so give it a sec. For different hardware, it's going to take more or less time to do this. Now you can see me, it says I'm busy for the next 37 seconds, but you also have to consider a couple things here. 1, I'm streaming live on YouTube. 2, I'm also running OBS in the background, right? 3, I also have Zoom happening, right? And all this is happening all at the same time. You won't see this interface like this if you start Unity from scratch. You'll actually see a layout that looks more like this, right? Guys, this is a bad layout, in my opinion, all right? If you've learned with this layout, all the power to you. But I think this layout is wasteful. Why? Your viewport is this big for development, right? And you have a lot of space for assets. If you had a large game, this might be a good layout. But if you're just starting off, this is a big waste of space. So let's move away from this layout, which is not the right layout. And let me talk about the layout a little bit before we move. First of all, on the left, you have this thing called the hierarchy, which is like your outliner, right? Where it outlines everything that's inside of the scene. is listed here. One thing to note, and this is a high-level thing that Joss is going to talk more about with you, is that everything in Unity, for the most part, is a game object, not an actor or a pawn or anything like that. A game object. That's what they call them. And that means all game objects have one thing in common. They're transform. So if I click on the main camera here, left click, on the right, you're going to have a context-sensitive data inside something called the inspector. This is the inspector panel. So hierarchy, inspector. What do we click on here? We can modify here. Okay, notice how far away they are. Bad. I don't like it, right? But notice that the transform is the one component that's part of every game object. Every game object has a transform. Okay, even if there's it's not rendered, you still have a transform. The camera is a special component that you can add or not, right? In this case, it's a built-in component, which is a script, the camera script, that you can add on to any other component. Okay, and we can talk about adding components later on. Not today. So that's what this is. Down in the bottom, you have your project navigator, which is this thing down here, as well as your assets. It shows you all the assets for the game. And you have a console. Okay, this console is kind of feedback to you, just like our console that we have in Visual Studio. That's what this is. You have a couple of things in the middle. You have your scene, which, think about this as how you build up your game. So if I drag and drop items in here in the hierarchy or even directly inside the scene, they will be part of the scene when it starts. And what I mean by that is when you click start, the start button up here, it will instantiate any objects that are listed here in the hierarchy inside your scene automatically. Okay? That's what it does. There's also a game tab, which is what the game preview looks like, as well as an asset store tab, which is where you get your custom marketplace assets. Okay? Notice now it's gone fully online, and there's also the package manager. So this is a bad layout, guys. Better layout for me is, if you're going to go to default, go to tall. For me, this is a far better layout, and let me explain why. One, I can scrunch it up like this. I have my hierarchy here, I have my project in here, and I have my inspector right next to my hierarchy. So if I click on something here, I can modify it here, right next to me. My mouse movement is very small. Also in here, my assets are very small, and what I can do is with this slider, I can make it into a list to make it even smaller and more compact. I highly recommend this way of doing things than making your icons big, which I feel is wasteful. All right. Again, Joss may have some other tricks and tips that he recommends to you. You do what he tells you in his course. Bruno, is that a hand, or are you saying yay? Yeah, Blair, maybe you should move on. Okay, I'm putting down, thank you for that. Well, only because if you're used to it for so long, then I'm not in Unity dark mode, Rose. I'm actually in my Windows is dark mode. So I think that's what's happened. It's swapped everything here in Unity 2. I don't think I've modified anything. Let me just check. That's a good question. Is it under preferences? Someone's going to tell me faster than I can find it. I'm pretty sure I didn't switch to dark mode. I don't think so. I think it's part of my Windows. Anyways, let's get back. External tools. We're going to get back to external tools later on. But let's continue. All right, so I have my scene here, and my scene is called by default the sample scene. That's pretty ugly. Let's rename the scene. So if I click once on it and once again, then I can modify it, right? Like I can modify the scene, whatever the scene name is. So notice inside my scenes, there's my sample scene. So click once on it, once again, and now I can modify it, and I can call the scene main, which will ask me to reload, and I can save the scene by clicking File, Save. I can save the project by clicking File, Save Project. Okay? They're pretty much the same thing. The project saves other things, not just the scene. So now that my scene is saved, think about my scene as the container object. It's a container that contains game objects. That's what a scene is. Think about a scene like a screen for a mobile device. Okay? No, you don't have to pay for it anymore. So that's the main scene. That's what I've done here, and I've got the main camera. What I also like to do in my assets, when I rename my assets, so for example in scenes, instead of naming it scenes, I'm the type of person that likes to put an underscore in front of my scenes. And I also want to create a new folder. You can right click inside assets to create a new folder, and call this underscore scripts. I'm going to put scripts in there probably starting off next week sometime, right? You can have many folders to organize your work, just like you did in Unreal. So I can have things like create folder and then textures. Create folder and then materials, as an example. Or sprites or whatever, right, that you have in here. You could have, there's also a special folder you can add in called prefabs. So create folder called prefabs. We'll talk about what prefabs are. Prefabs are special objects that we can use again. In fact, they're very close to blueprints from an Unreal perspective. That's what they are. That's what prefabs are like. But not exactly. All right, so that is what we can do here. Now, this is the standard way of doing stuff if I'm designing for desktop, but we're not designing for desktop. So this is where I need you to make some modifications. We're going to go to the window menu, and I'm going to go now into our package manager right here. Window package manager. Under window package manager, I want you to go to the little gear icon on the right. Okay, this little gear icon way over here. Okay, click onto it. It says advanced. Click onto it and go to advanced project settings. What this is going to do is it's going to bring up the project settings tab, or the window, this project setting window right here, which by the way, you can tear off and put wherever you like, or leave it where it is. It doesn't matter. It's floatable like this, right? And then enable preview packages, please. And it says preview packages are very early stage of development, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I understand. And then I also like to see my dependencies. Okay, so that's me. I enable preview packages, and I want to show dependencies on my package to see, where the packages are at. Now close off this little X. Again, if you think about this, right? What did I do? Gear icon, advanced project settings, click on enable preview packages, please. After you've got this enabled, go over here in front of, next to the plus, and where it says packages and projects, select Unity registry, please. Under the Unity registry, there's two packages that I want you to install right now. If you scroll down, there's one called Android Logcat, this package. Please click on Android Logcat once, left click, and click install. This is going to install a equivalent of a console log for Android when it's running. Okay? That's what it's kind of like. It's almost like, what does the device spit out when it's running? What kind of errors and messages does the device give you? Okay? And next, you want to scroll down to where it says Device Simulator. My friends, this is the key for this semester. Please install the Device Simulator. When you install it, it's going to make some changes to your configuration, right? And let me show you what this does. It'll take a second for you to install it. Cool. Close this off, this package manager window. You don't need it anymore for now. I want you to go now to the game. See where I have game here? And I want you, instead of pulling down game, I want you to pull this little new pull down that says simulator. And you get this, which is way cool. We're going to use the old input system, Blair, for now. All right? Because we're learners. New input system is a little bit abstract. I like it, but it's a little bit more abstract. Okay, so let me show you that again. So it was like this. I went to the game tab. So I was in the scene tab. I went to the game tab. I went to this where it says game. I pulled down the menu that says simulator. It shows me an iPad, but I don't want to work with an iPad. I want to work with other things, and if you notice the second tab or the second pull down menu, you can scroll down and select something like, for example, an iPhone XR. There's your iPhone XR. You can even turn on the safe area to notice where the safe area is for the iPhone XR. You don't want to program stuff up here or down here, right? Which is kind of cool. If I want to, I can rotate this whole thing. There's rotation controls up here. I can rotate to the left or back to the right, right? To simulate what it's like to rotate the simulator, okay? Sometimes I need to reload, sometimes. And reloading happens because this is trying its best to update what we have on here. We can also simulate low memory. We have a lot of controls here. Now, some people don't like this layout. And the reason why they don't like this layout, and I got to talk about this for a second, is they don't like switching between it. For example, going to the scene. Notice, by the way, the scene has changed its perspective, the camera size, to match the layout in the simulator. All right, so example, if I go back to the iPad, and instead of what we had before, let's go iPad 7th gen, and I go back to the scene, you can see now the scene has changed size as well to match it, right? Which is really cool. That's why I like this simulator package. And let's go back to the iPhone XR for now. Okay, we're not going to stay with this. So again, like I was saying, this is kind of cumbersome. You do it here, and then you want to see the preview here. It's two different screens. So what some people like to do is they like to pull this simulator to the side, and you can do that. You can kind of tear off this tab and put it where you like over here, and now it's kind of a side-by-side view, which you can, if you scroll in with your middle mouse button. So here we got the middle mouse button, right? And by the way, for Unity, you need a 3-button mouse. I highly recommend it, right? If you scroll in with the mouse wheel, you can make it big. And if you press the right mouse button, you can just kind of grab it and pull it across. That's what this does. So you can kind of make it so that you can develop side by side. This is another favored way of developing, or the other way around. Some people like the simulator on your left, and because the scene is closer to the hierarchy, they like it the other way around. In other words, they like it like, let's say we pull the scene on this side, and then we have the simulator on the right side. So scene on this way, simulator on the left side. Some people like it more like this. And you have to find which way you like, my friends, because you're going to be working with this system over and over again. I don't have a problem like this. This is good, right? But what if I want to rotate? So sometimes I might have to rotate like this, and then it's kind of wah, it doesn't work, right? And so sometimes I want to shift my view so that the simulator's at the bottom, right? And this is at the top, right? Well, we're going to be doing this. So the thing to do is, let's have different layouts. So I've programmed some layouts here. You can save your layout. If I go here and say save layout, you can save your layout and name it. I've done it already. And I've created 2 layouts. One is portrait. I like it this way, right? And the other one is landscape. Okay? Automatic, so I don't have to drag windows around and all that kind of stuff. Okay? So try and do it so that, it makes sense for you. And if you like it the other way, do it the other way. Okay? But make it so that you have some layouts. And then finally back to tall, I have my air quotes pro layout, which is just this again. Back to like full screen. All right? So I want to be able to switch between these things really quickly, and I think it's a good way of having different layouts in order for you to move from one scenario to the next. And we're going to have to deal with different scenarios because we're going to be responsive with our phone. It's going to turn to the left, turn to the right. Maybe it'll go upside down, whatever. And I want you to set up different quick layouts, especially during your development, where you can. I want to, maybe you're going to make a platformer, and it makes more sense that you're going to be doing a layout that is more of a landscape layout. Right? Because the platformer makes sense like this more than portrait, right? So maybe this is the way you're going to be developing, right? As an example. Again, there's you have to find what's comfortable for you, okay? This scenario for me is comfortable when I'm developing, and I want to see the output immediately when I do something up here, right? Sometimes it's just good enough for me. and if I go back to my Pro layout, it's good enough for me just to develop on my scene, right? I can use the maximum size of my real estate here, so I can do whatever I want, and then I can just switch over to my simulator when I need to. All right. You got to find the right workflow for you. All right, so that's number one. So hopefully you've got that going on. I've played with this enough times so you can see it. One thing to note is, like I said, everything is a game object. So when you drag and drop something in here, or if, for example, let's say I right-click inside my main up here, there's two ways to add a new game object. One is I can go to the plus menu and add a 2D object. Let's say add a sprite. You can do it that way. And I can rename that sprite. We'll call it handle. Right? And the sprite doesn't appear because, well, there isn't a texture attached to it. Notice that there's a sprite component, and on the right there's a little empty thing that says none. There's a little target. If you click on the target once with your left mouse button, it'll bring up a list, and it could contain this thing that's a knob. A knob is a sprite, and now you can see that I have the knob here. It appears inside my scene. So too does it appear inside my simulator, right? The scene is what I'm going to work with. The simulator is a preview, okay? You're going to learn more about this with Joss when he works with you in your Game Engines course. But let's suppose I want to make this knob, which I'm calling a handle, I want to make this knob bigger. I can do that by scaling it physically. I can go here and say, I want this knob to be 3 times larger on the x-axis. I can certainly do that numerically, or on the top left corner, you can see there's several buttons. There's 2 ways to access these buttons, or actually multiple ways, but the 2 most common ways are click on them. So if I click on this button here, move tool, I can actually move it around X and Y coordinates only because this is 2D, or I can press the W key. The shortcut key is W. If I want to go back to the hand, the shortcut key is Q. So the whole QWERTY, the top part of the QWERTY keyboard, Q, W, notice up here, E, R, right? And there's and TY. They're all up here. You can access them all by your keys. And I think the most common ones that I use are the W and example either the rotation tool or the scale tool, which is this one, R. And what I want to do is I want to scale it up. You can scale it individually by different the components, individual components, X and Y, or you can click on the actual center and then just scale it together. So they're kind of uniformly being scaled up. And then I can click the W key, press the W key, or press this move tool, and then move it where you want, right? Inside the center of the screen. You can certainly adjust it by eye, and then you can go back to the position, into the transform, and adjust it exactly. So for example, let's suppose I want to go, instead of 7.0 something, I want to make it all exactly 7. I can adjust that, so I can change the scale to exactly 7. I'm just adjusting it now numerically. And I want it to be exactly at 1.2 on the y-axis, 1.2 units away from the center. The y-axis and the x-axis in 2D space in Unity, the center is 0, 0. Up is positive, down is negative, just like a Cartesian coordinate system. And here you can see that the z coordinate should not even have a value, so let's make that 0, because we're not going to go anywhere on the z coordinate. Okay, so you can see that's like kind of centered a little bit above the center, right? 0.2 units above the center. And if I go back to my simulator, you can see that that indeed is what it looks like. However, there are some really weird effects that happen when I turn the simulator to the left. Notice that things happen. Things shrink. It doesn't seem to be the same size, and things move around. Why? We're going to talk about these things when we start developing, how this works, how we can stop that from happening. Let's move it back. See, that's kind of in the middle. All right, so that is the first part, getting the simulator running. And I'm going to save the scene, Control S, as an example. Let's put Unity away for a second. I'm just going to minimize it and install another tool. So what we want to do is we want to simulate Unity. Like if I run Unity right now, if I go back to that Unity, if I just run it, I can click the plus button or the play button up here, and it just runs. And this is live. a live preview. Yay, it's so exciting. No, it's not, right? I'd like to see this in an actual device, like booting up in a device. I want to see that it works. But this is not an actual device. This is just a preview. That's all it is. So I want an actual device, but I don't have one. Let's suppose you are like me, and you don't have an Android phone handy. I do have one, but let's suppose you don't, right? And let's suppose you don't have an iOS device, but you want to simulate something. There's a great tool we can download for free called Genymotion. All right. So the link for that is going to be up on Blackboard soon, but it's Genymotion with a Y and a single N. Genymotion.com. All right. You can download, if you say get started for free, right? You can download Genymotion, and if you scroll down, you can see that it talks about how to install Genymotion through your API and whatever. But the best way to do it is if you just Google download Genymotion, right? It'll take you to the exact area that you want, which is this, download Genymotion desktop. There are two options for this. There is the with VirtualBox option and without VirtualBox option. Okay, caution. If you have VirtualBox installed already because you've used it on another project, I recommend highly to uninstall it if you're not using it right now. And just download and install Genymotion with VirtualBox. Why? It optimizes for VirtualBox as opposed to separate. I think I found that there was more success when I downloaded everything together as one package. This package is 254 megabytes. I'll try later to zip it up and put it up on Blackboard in its entirety, but really what you want to do is just have this link. I'm just going to take this link and put it on Blackboard, okay? And that's where you want to go. So I'm going to go to new web link. We're going to call, this is the link, and we'll say Genymotion download link. Please do that from here. Okay? And that should give you the tool you need, or the link you need to download Genymotion. On that, I might as well also give you, just in case you want to do this later on, the download link for Unity, which I highly recommend. Download Unity Hub. I'm just slowing things down so you can download Genymotion. That's why I'm doing it this way. All right, so please download Genymotion now, okay, because it takes a bit of time. So, sorry, what I want to do is online, I'll say web link. It's here, and we'll say this is the Unity download link. Okay. Again, you'll have another opportunity to download and install Unity with Joss. So if you don't install it with me, it's totally fine. However, we're going to have separate projects. I'm going to have a project that has the device manager. Joss will not, because he's not going to do it that way. He's going to help you build stuff for desktop, not mobile. Those are the two links up there. Yes, download with VirtualBox, please. So if you go to download here, please download with VirtualBox. If you have VirtualBox already installed, uninstall it and then download it. Okay, notice the requirements. And by the way, you're going to be running this side by side. So please be careful. If you don't have the requirements, if you only have an 8 gig laptop or something like that, this is going to require 4 gig of RAM, right? That we're going to allocate to that we're going to allocate, and we're also going to allocate 400 megabytes of disk space, right? Because it requires VirtualBox and a bunch of other stuff. Now, the Android Studio comes with an emulator, but we're not running Android Studio. We're running something separate from Android. So we're going to download this emulator. We're also going to find another emulator to download and install for iOS. Most likely, we're going to have to use a Mac for that. And we'll talk about that later. All right, so once we've downloaded the one with VirtualBox and we've installed it, it's going to take you to a screen that looks like this. I'm just going to kick off Genymotion now so you can see it. Here's Genymotion for you. And notice that I've already installed a device, the Samsung Galaxy S7, because this is the closest one that I want to use. It shows you the Android API version 8, right? As an example, API 26. The size of the screen, the density in pixels, the source is Genymotion, and the status, which is off. You could edit this thing, and I highly recommend that you do edit it, right? When you download, let's just download this option here, this Samsung Galaxy S7. How do I find it? I click the plus button. I can scroll down, or you can search, right? But let's suppose I scroll down. You can scroll down to where it says Samsung Galaxy S7, right? And there's many of them. Here it is, right here. You can grab this one. Notice that this says Android API level 6, right? And there's other ones that you can find with a different API level, level 7. So you can simulate different ones. I'm using level 8, this one. Okay? So you can download this one. When you download it, it is a download. It actually downloads an appliance. A new virtual machine is what it does. Okay? So once you download this new virtual machine, you can edit it. And I recommend editing it. So one thing that it has is you can modify memory. So you can increase the memory. You can allocate more processor cores if you want to. For me, because I have an Intel i9 10900K with 10 cores, I can afford to allocate a few cores to my my VM. You may not be able to do so many. Maybe 2 is enough. That's fine. Don't stress out about it, is what I'm saying. Also, there's a difference between NAT mode and bridge mode. Please leave it at NAT mode. You don't need to go bridged. Okay? NAT mode is enough. Okay? And then confirm when you make your changes. Now that we have your appliance downloaded, right, all you need to do is go to the ellipses here and start it. And what it's going to do is it's going to start a brand new VM. This new VM, virtual machine, is going to run as a guest in the host operating system, which is your machine, Windows 10, hopefully. I'm running Windows 10 Pro, and maybe that's why I've got dark mode 2 rows, not sure. I know I set it up somewhere, but this is how it looks, okay, if you notice. So this is like an Android device. You can swipe up, you can treat it like an Android device, you can swipe to the left and right, you can swipe down, you can do anything that you normally would do on an Android device to a degree, okay? Equivalent to the Samsung Galaxy S7, okay? So now that I have this running, notice it's running at 192.168.114.101. That is my IP address. It doesn't matter, is the answer. As long as it's on close enough to my IP and it's running on my system, I'm good to go. Let me show you what I mean. Now that I've got this device running, I'm going to go back to Unity. I'm just waiting for you guys to be okay. Are you guys okay, first of all? Michael, I think you have, is that a hand? Do we use all the features that are default, or do we need to change any settings during the install? I don't think there's any settings that are really special, Michael, to be honest. I didn't install any special settings. I just kind of went next, 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 next. So again, when you have to set up a free license, you're going to use personal use. You need to set up an account with Genymotion for free. There's no cost to it whatsoever. Please don't give credit cards or anything like that to anybody, right? This is all the stuff I'm showing you here so far today is all free, okay? So you can sign up and register with Genymotion, and then you can sign up as personal use. When you download it, you can sign in as you. And then once you've signed in as you, like I'm signed in here, right? Then, once you've signed in as you, then you're good to go. It doesn't matter. It's not going to ask you again. It's only a one-time thing. All right, so now that I have Genymotion running, I'm going to just make this a little smaller so you guys can see it. And I'm going to pull it to the side. And I'm going to run Unity again. I'm going to go back to Unity. So here's Unity. This is an iPhone. I don't want an iPhone. Oh, this is a Samsung Galaxy S7. This is cool, but what I want is, right now we're building for, look what it says up here at the top of my title bar. It says main, which is my scene, for PC, Mac, and Linux standalone build. Yeah, no, that is not what we want. What we want instead of this is we want it to change our platform to Android. So to do that, you're going to go to File, You're going to go to Build Settings. And under Build Settings, if you've installed the pieces that I've told you about, you should have an Android platform option. If you don't, and if you click on it, it'll tell you to download another piece. That's okay. Follow the instructions, please. Okay? But Android is what you want over here. Next, notice where it says Run Device. Now, because we have Genymotion running, I can go to Default Device and choose it like so. If you don't have that option, or if you get an error, it's because Genymotion does not support ARM processors out of the box. I've provided you online, if you go to Blackboard, there is a link where it says Genymotion ARM translation. There's a bunch of translation zip files that I've given you for Marshmallow, for 8, and for Oreo. Okay, all these different ones. I'm running 8 on my simulator. Remember, look, it's running 8. So therefore, I've got to translate this thing into an ARM compatible VM. The way to do this is to have my let's suppose I have my download. I went online on Blackboard, downloaded these files, and I grabbed my ARM translation stuff. Just a moment. Let's suppose I do that. Hold on a second. I'm just going to show you one sec. So here is my ARM translation for 8. What I can do is, if I haven't done this yet, you only have to do this once to your VM, is drag and drop from here to here like this. And what it's going to do is it's going to equivalently flash the BIOS on your VM. And when it does, it'll make it compatible with ARM version 7. Okay, this is important, or else Unity will not ever be able to connect to it. Ever. It'll just keep erroring out. Okay, I've given you the files online. No, that is another issue, Kat. So what's happened is, by default, sometimes that error that you have there, command with no std out invoked failure, you have to stop the ADB server running and relaunch it. There's a fix for this I'm going to present next week on online. It's a few steps, but basically what you do is you have to go on the command line, stop the server, and you can find the command tools under Android. And then what you want to do is you want to relaunch the command tools with Genymotion. So start the Genymotion server, or sorry, it's the other way around. You want to start the Android server, not the Genymotion server, because there's incompatibility issues. It's just a one-time thing, all right? So if you Google it and your Google Fool is strong, you should be able to fix it, not a problem. All right, now that you've got this configured properly, if I need to switch platforms, I'm going to click Switch Platform here. So this takes a few minutes. It doesn't happen immediately. Why? Because it's changing things like textures, it's changing editors, assets in the editor, assets in the back end, so they're more compatible with mobile, specifically for Android, than they are for desktop. Optimizations. So Kat, just to continue with that, that's a different error that you're experiencing. Okay, so once I've switched over, I'm not quite done. So I've switched over, I've switched to Android, right? I need to basically hit player settings over here. On the left, there's a link for player settings. Please hit that now. Click it. It's going to bring up the project settings under player. We already hit the project settings under device simulator before, but now we're going to hit the project settings under player. under player, notice now we've clicked on the Android option. There's different options. Each one is depending on the platform that I've installed. I've installed WebGL, HTML5, iOS, Windows, and PC, Mac, Linux. So this is Windows Universal Platform. So what we want on the top is change the company name first to something that's understandable. So something like, I don't know, George Brown. You can make your own company name. And then if you scroll down to resolution and presentation, I want to show you what this kind of tells you. You can select later on when we start developing whether you want your app to even run in portrait mode. Maybe you say that, portrait mode it's never going to run in portrait mode. It's always going to be landscape because I'm making a platformer. Then you can uncheck these, right, as an example. Under other settings, you're also going to have things like quality control settings. Do I want to have high-end quality and so on? But the one area that you want to change is the package name. It's in reverse DNS order. So that means that I would have to put something like CA dot the name of my company name, typically. So George Brown College dot the name of my project, which would be, let's say, Lab 1B, right? And then it says the minimum API level, so that's the lowest level that I want to install on any device. 4.4 KitKat would be a very low level. You can also change that to something else, another target. I'm okay with leaving it there because we're not going to install it at that level anyway. And then the target level is the highest installed, which is okay for us right now. If I keep scrolling, there's one more, which is publishing settings on the bottom, where you can also create things like make it so that there is a custom manifest. So if you want to take this into Android Studio later on, you can add some of these options. Custom Gradle properties, custom ProGuard properties, and so on, right? You can add additional things. Also the way it gets compiled under other settings. You can also talk about the scripting backend, whether you want to use Mono or IL2 CPP. It's totally up to you. There's advantage and disadvantage to both. We will talk about them throughout the course. Different standards. If I want to use a heavier .NET 4.x standard that gives me more support for collections and other things, I can do that. I can do a bunch of stuff. I can also uncheck ARM version 7, but we'll never have a connection. Okay? Now that I've configured everything, all we need to do is press the X key. All right. And now we're going to build and run. Build and run. So when you click the build and run key, it's going to ask you, where do you want your build to go? I want my build to go in its own folder. I'm going to make a brand new folder outside of the assets folder, please. And we're going to call this builds. And we're going to double click inside the builds folder, and we're going to call our file name for now Android. You can call it whatever you want. You could have called this Lab 1B, which would have been a perfectly acceptable name. Okay? And it's going to create a lab1b.apk. You guys should be familiar, some of you should be familiar with the APKs. If you've ever side-loaded an app onto your phone, APK is the package, the Android package that represents your application. Save. It's going to do a couple things. It's going to run and build your package, right? If everything goes well, you will not get an error here. It's going to convert everything that we've done here in our project to something that's compatible with Android. And then it's going to attempt to build it here in the Genymotion VM. If everything goes well, we'll have our app with our little knob up here in the middle. It's not going to do much, but at least it'll appear here. And you'll see it start in a few seconds. Take a look. It's building the Gradle project, which is perfect. And after this is done, you're going to see two things. Logcat on the top left, and on the right, you're going to see it's going to launch Unity for the first time. And there is my shape. Okay, so Logcat basically says that while I'm running this and I'm pressing it and I'm doing stuff, you're going to see that there's going to be some warnings and errors that come up here and that you can monitor. If you don't want to see this, you just can click it closed. If you don't want to, you can still run Genymotion without Logcat. Logcat just gives you more information on what's happening in the app on the device, not in Unity, the device, right? We can close this window now if we want, and we can still have this window running. This is our device window. Let's see if how close it is to our preview. So here's our preview, and here's our device, and you can see the frame rate I'm getting. I'm getting about just under 60 frames. It's kind of fluctuating, and this is bad. The reason why I'm getting this kind of frame rate is because, remember, I'm broadcasting live, right? And it's inside of VM, which means that if I want to try and run something more than 30 frames per second to show a game in here, chances are it's going to be pretty poor. FYI. Okay? And by the way, like I said, this is like full-blown. I've got a crazy card and an insane machine. My machine is right now running at around 70 degrees Celsius. All right. I've got my backdrop breaking, which is not terribly good, but it's, I mean, I've got liquid cooling and everything else, so it should be fine. All right. This is as far as I wanted to go today. I wanted to install Genymotion. We can stop Genymotion just by closing it off. It'll just close off the VM, right? And I wanted to install this, so File, Save, right? And again, there's some issues that you'll experience with Genymotion for the first time. Start with Googling them. The first thing you might get is, Amara, I see your hand. The first thing you might get is this idea that you can't make an ARM of V7 processor work with Unity. You need to use translation software. I've given you that software. The other problem is the problem that Kat is experiencing with this command with no std out invocation failure. And that's because your ADB server is running incompatibly with the Android backend. Amara, what's your question?
Do we have to use Genymotion if we have an Android device? Can I just hook up my phone and use that instead?
I'm fine with it, but the only thing that you have to figure out is, and there's other software we're going to use. I'm presenting this as an option because some people may not have an Android device at all, right? And also, you may not want to pollute your Android device with things we push over to it every single time, right? Because we're going to do a lot of little experiments, right? So it's up to you. When you show off your stuff, though, there are some things that I can recommend in terms of you want to be able to stream your device to some place that I can see it, because I may ask you to show me it live on the device or a simulator, kind of thing. That's where you might need something like Genymotion or an ability for you to stream from your device to your computer. Okay? But yeah, I'm perfectly fine with you doing it live. I think it's better, to be honest with you. BlueStacks. Yeah, I'm fine with that too. BlueStacks, isn't that another cloud-based service? Kevin? Yeah. So, again, if it's something that I can see the simulation, right, and it's your work, I mean, I'm good to go. I'm just presenting Genymotion as a direct connection with Unity, which is where you want to go with this thing. Okay? Again, I'm going to give you some other options for iOS. If you have an iOS device and you want to directly go to the iOS device from your machine, how to do this, you're going to need a Mac. For the most part, that's the answer. But we're going to talk about other options. Okay? So this is where I want to stop today. I know we kind of ran a little early, and it always is like this. I always run right to the wire with the first group, and you guys I have lots of time with. And the reason for this is because I've already done it one time, so I've made all my mistakes. Let's see if I can fix, since we have a little bit more time, let's see if I can fix or give a suggestion for Kat's problem. So, command with no std out failure, which is unable to start std, this ADB server stuff. So, you're getting it too. Okay, let's fix this problem together. So, if I was to Google it, and you might be getting that problem, right? So it says error building player, command invocation failure, build project Android error, unable to start ADB server. This is the one you want to look at. What you want to do is, it tells you, it says that, and there's no solution here, but basically Unity Hub, right? You're inside of the Android player, and the SDK between the Android player and your and your Genymotion installation is different, right? And that's the problem. So if you type in Genymotion and Unity problems, right? A lot of times what they might have is, you know, how to set it up from a Unity. There might be a Unity forum that you can find. Where I found it was, well, how I fixed it was, if I want to find where my Android installation is, right? You can find that in Unity. So if you go to File, actually if you go to Edit, and if you go to Preferences, if I'm not wrong, External Tools. First of all, this is where you can set up your external tool. I've set it up to Visual Studio 2019 Enterprise. That's mine. If you scroll down here, you can also see things like your JDK, right, which was installed with Unity, and it tells you where it is. So Program Files, Unity, Hub, Editor, 2020 1.3 F1, right, as an example. And that's your JDK. Your SDK is here, and what you want to look at is platform tools. So if I go copy path, right, as an example, and I open up my, you know, file explorer, and I just put in paste and go enter, you can see it takes me to SDK, the platform tools. So there's platform and platform tools. If I go to platforms, I see Android 28, and you see some jar files and some other stuff and data. There's some other stuff in here. What we want is a bin file that's on platform tools, and it's called ADB, this one, adb.exe. Okay? This is the one. So this adb.exe that's inside Unity, right, as an example, we can start and stop the server. If you look at ADB commands right up online, so if I say Android ADB commands, right, then it'll tell you what you can do. So here's some basic ADB commands that you can use, and some of them are ADB devices. The ADB devices lists what you have, and it might say something like, you know, your device is not started. You can also stop and start the server here. So I think it's ADB reboot might work. You can also install actually installs you know, kind of an APK. I've done that before with the Oculus Quest, as well as sideload. Sideload pushes an APK as an example across, and so on, right? So for me to do that, what I need to do, let's try and use the ADB command, right? Is I'm going to pull in a command prompt, right? Here's my command prompt. I just went to CMD here on the Windows button. And I'm going to go out one level to here, to SDK, right? So again, I got this link because I went to Preferences, inside Edit, Preferences in Unity. I scrolled all the way down. I copied my path to my Android SDK tools, copy the path, put it inside my file explorer, and now I'm here. And what I want to do is I want to do CD space and drag and drop platform tools onto this, like this. So I don't have to type in that long path, and then press enter. And if I do a dir, you can see that I certainly have, dir means directory, get a directory or a list, equivalent in Linux. I have access to this adb.exe. Okay, what I want to do here, I'm just going to clear the screen, CLS. I want to type in adb devices and then enter. And it says list of devices attached. Notice that there isn't a list of devices attached. Why? Because I've closed Genymotion. Look, Genymotion's shut. Let's start it again for a second. So I start it up again. And you might get an error when you did that, right? This is where you have to reload. But this is the problem. The problem is your ADB server, your connection between your platform tools and your Genymotion, it's mismatched. You have to shut it down and restart it. All right, so here's Genymotion now, and we have a device, right? And if I go back to my command prompt, and if I type in the same thing, ADB devices, and press enter, it's going to list my device. 192.168.114.101, that's the name of my device because it's a VM. All right, so that's what you should do, and ADB is the key to it. Okay, so see if you can reload or restart your ADB, start and stop your server. And let's try that. Let's find that up online. So if I said ADB stop server, right, and then how to fix ADB devices. Look, it's even a fix. Shows unauthorized device or something weird, right? And it says here's some resolution. If it shows unauthorized, disconnect your USB, but we don't have a USB. We have this thing, and what we want to do is shut down the server, right? So it's to stop ADB server by entering ADB kill server, right? And then on the device, we don't care about this stuff, but what we want to do is you want to say just enter ADB devices after. Once we've killed the server, try and just do an ADB devices, which will restart the daemon, the device server, and it should be okay. Try that, guys. By the way, it'll be the same problem if you run a physical device and you're trying to connect to a physical device. You might have the same issue because you have to connect. You have to kind of make the server connect. And what happens is with Genymotion, there's a difference between the Android SDK that it has and what's happening in the in the Unity SDK that it downloaded. So try that out. Okay, so that's really it for me. That's kind of a hint of where I'm going with it. That's what I would do to fix it, and that's how I did fix it, to be honest. I just looked up how to start and stop my ADB server, and then that kind of fixed the problem. All right, I'm just going to power down this thing for a second now, and I'm also going to power down the VirtualBox. Any questions around this stuff before we continue? I'm going to stop recording now. Bohan, tell me.
So I was trying to run the Genymotion, but
yep.
I received an error saying my CPU is not compatible.
Yeah, that's a problem, my friend. So, okay, so that's a good question. So the question is, my CPU is not compatible. What do I do? So there's two possibilities. One, virtualization has been disabled in your BIOS. That's possible, which means you probably are running like a laptop that might have virtualization turned off, right? And maybe it's on a desktop. Wow. Yeah. So that means that it could mean that your what CPU do you have? Is it an AMD?
Let me check.
Yeah. So that's part of it. Part of it is, you have to have a CPU that has virtualization capabilities. And if you don't, now you're going to do what Russell says, which is you need to have... Did not fix it for me. Let's work together on that, Russell, offline. I'll kind of take it offline and we'll fix it. And then I'll put up a fix for everybody else after. Yes, absolutely. The video will be available afterwards. Absolutely. Yeah. So what's your CPU, Bohan?
It's AMD Ryzen 5.
What is it?
Ryzen 5.
A Ryzen. Okay, so it's an AMD device. Yeah. Sometimes some of the other devices, as an example, like earlier devices, Ryzen should be okay, but your virtualization might be turned off. And what you want to do is Google Ryzen 5 virtualization, depending on which one you have. Just Google that. So say Ryzen 5 virtualization, right? Enable. And maybe there's a fix. So it tells you to go into the BIOS, and then there might be a fix for you to turn on virtualization technology. You can't do that now, obviously, because if you're watching this with your computer,
Yeah.
you'd have to power it down and power it back up. So that might be the issue. And Nate, I'm going to help you out with your JDK problem in a sec. Okay. Patrick, is that a hand or is that a go slower? It's a go slower. Okay. All right, let's do the JDK. Let's do the JDK problem. So, I mean, the only reason why that your JDK would have a problem is if Java is not installed properly on your machine. So there's a couple things you can do. One is if you go to edit, and if I go back to preferences and I go down to external tools, JDK installed with Unity should be on. If you're there and it's not installed with Unity like this, that's a problem. I am still recording. So Nate, do you have this inside of your, because I want to deal with problems so we can share the problems together with everybody else. None are checked. So that means that you didn't install your Android tools properly. That's why these are none are checked, because usually all I did was literally install them when I downloaded it. I didn't install my own version of the Android tools. I just literally just installed stuff with my Unity installation. So make sure that they're checked and that there's something there in those paths. And the paths that I have are these. And again, I'm storing these for you guys to see them. C program files, Unity Hub, editor, whatever the editor version is, playback engines, Android player, OpenJDK. You should have this. If you don't have these things, that means when you installed your version of Unity 2020, you didn't somehow check everything. There's an extra checkbox. You have to. There's a. Let me show you this for a second. I'm just going to click off of Unity for a second and shut it down. And I'm going to go to the Unity Hub for a second and show you. So if you go to Unity Hub, and if I go to installs, and if I click add, and let's say for example I want this new one, and click next. If you don't check this button, sometimes you don't get both. OpenJDK should be selected. So both these two things should be selected inside of this little platform thing. If you don't do that, then it won't be good. Okay. Sorry, Rose, did you have another question, or do you want me to stop recording before you ask? Oh, good. Yes, so that is a different problem. I'm not sure. Kat, did you fix your problem? Where's Kat? She's still on? I know Russell didn't fix his problem. But you guys are pretty... Okay, so what did you do, Russell? Haven't been able to follow along.
Sorry.
Yeah, tell me.
Talk. Yeah, I found a link. If you go into...
Drop it into our chat.
It's really easy. If you just go to Genymotion and go to settings.
God damn it. Hold on a sec. Hold on. Genymotion itself?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's right.
Launching it. Go into the settings and you can change.
My God. Yes, I forgot. Sorry. Yes, you're right. Yes.
That's where I found it.
Yeah, you're right. So you're going to go into settings.
It's under the Genymotion name. It's really weird.
Yep.
It took me a minute to find that.
Yeah. And if you go to where ADB, yeah, I thought so. And then point to the same thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You have to point to the ADB engine. You have to stop the ADB engine, point to it, and then restart devices, and that's it. Awesome. Thank you.
Works now.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. That's where it is right here. That's why I'm recording, so we can find our problems, and then everyone's on the same thing. Thank you for that on Stack Overflow. What I'll do is I'll take that link, and I'm going to paste this problem inside of Blackboard for us to fix. So we're going to go web link. I knew I had fixed it. I couldn't remember exactly where. So
I'd also say make a comment saying that the settings are under the Genymotion name in the top left, because I was seriously looking for it for like 5 minutes trying to find where the settings were.
Okay. Genymotion settings is on the under the is accessible by clicking the Genymotion name. God. On the top left. Here, let's do a screen cap, just because we're like that. Which is here, right? Let's do a screen cap. So I'm going to use Share X, my favorite screen cap tool. Hopefully this helps people. And it didn't work. Doesn't like that. But can I put it inside of a PowerPoint slide? Hold on a second here. Yes. Will it work now on Blackboard? Sometimes it does that. I have to put it in there and then... I'm sorry. It doesn't work. I have to download it as a file and load it in here. This is good enough.
This is the third year. I think I can figure it out from that.
I hope so. But,
Well,
you know,
problems,
it is
okay.
what it is. Amar, are you working now too? Everything good? Thanks, Russell. All right. Anyone else have any other issues? Because that's it for me for today. I think we've handled most of them. And again, we're recording this, so if you haven't had a chance to install Genymotion, I think it's a good app. I mean, honestly, I think as an alternative. Now, if you don't have virtualization installed, your machine's not powerful enough, and whatever, I'm going to present other options to you next week. But you need to have some kind of phone. That's the other option. Otherwise, there won't be a simulation at all. And this way, you won't get the feel of what it's like to really push it onto a device. And I think one of the tools, one of the things I wanted to show you was how to do that. How to push from Unity right to a device. What I'm showing you here with Genymotion is exactly the same as it would be to push to an Oculus Rift or something else. It's exactly the same kind of way of doing things, right? So that's why I want to make sure you guys are good. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Then, if you have no other questions, I'm going to stop recording now, and I'll hang out for some other questions that are non-related to what we're talking about, and then we'll go from there. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. For homework, please have Unity 2020 installed. Please have, if you can, Genymotion installed and working and connected to Unity. Try this whole lab out for yourself, right? And then by next week when we get together on Tuesday, I'm going to give you your assignment number 1 details, so stay tuned for that. If I can deliver it to you earlier so you can start working on it earlier, great. However, you need a little bit of, if you've never used Unity before, you need a little bit of a push to get going, which is hopefully by then Joss would have given you a tour of Unity and everything else to give you a sense of what to do next. Okay, otherwise, guys, for people watching the video, thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording now.